Hal, don't you think you're being a little bit shallow here in the way you look at women?
Well, no, I mean, I'd like her to be into culture and shit too.
Okay, hypothetical situation. Which do you prefer? A girlfriend missing one breast or half a brain?
Ooh, toughie. That's a toughie. How's the remaining breast? Is it big?
Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host, hypnotist and life coach, Mr. James O'Reilly.
How's it going, buddy? I'm honored to be compared to Tony Robbins.
Well, I think it is a worthy comparison for you, my friend. And each week we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters, and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's how you help the channel grow. And we got a whopper of a movie tonight. Jim, what are we watching?
We're watching Shallow Hal.
That's right. The 2001 comedy, the very 2001 comedy, Shallow Hal, directed by the Farrelly brothers, who share writing credit with Sean Monahan, and starring Jack Black and Gwyneth Paltrow. We've watched a couple of movies in the comedy realm here so far, Jim, that have felt very much of the early 2000s. And this might be the like quintessential when you could point to the type of comedy you just don't see anymore. This is very early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is interesting to me because you can tell that its heart is in the right place, kinda, you know? Um when you're thinking about like acceptance in 2024, this movie really at the end of the day, it feels like it's sitting me down and it's saying,
Gonna get you close, my friend, but not too close, eh?
because like again I think it's like going for the right thing. I don't know that they really hit the nail on the head in the way I think of it as a person today, you know what I mean? Like they're definitely a little off here.
I can agree with that sentiment, but we'll get into all of that gloriousness that Jim's talking about in just a minute. As always, we like to turn back and we like to look at our log lines here. And Jim, returning, it's been a minute, but we finally got the DVD movie
Ooh,
returning here, where we could
DVD.
the DVD
All
we
right,
could
now
yes.
this one
Okay.
I am very intrigued as to what the DVD jacket of Shallow Hal is going to go for.
Oh,
I have a
Jim,
feeling.
if you're thinking it's out of control, it
Okay,
absolutely. Before I even get
let's
to the log
let's play
line,
a quick
Jim.
game.
Okay.
Is the word whale in it?
The word whale. The word whale is not in it.
Okay, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. I
That
like.
is that a good
Continue.
sign? All right. Well, so first, before we even get back to the log line on the back, right off the bat on the front cover of this, Jim, I cannot believe they saw the opportunity and they absolutely took it with no compunction. The tagline for this movie,
Oh
Jim,
God.
is "True love is worth the wait." And wait is exactly how you would think it would be spelled for this
My
movie.
God. All right, so they didn't have the word whale, but they're in the same ballpark. They're making like bad puns around the size of this lady.
Somebody got a raise for that. You could tell back then they were sitting in the office like, God damn it, Hal, that was great.
I don't know. That's such low hanging fruit, dude.
Yeah, but you got to think of the time period that we're in right now in the early
Yeah,
2000s. Low hanging fruit, they're all about that. On
yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
It's true. And then on the back, they have a shot from the movie that never actually happens in the movie, and it's insane that it's placed on the back here. But it's a bench, and Gwyneth Paltrow is sitting on the bench, and the other side of the bench has been lifted into the air, and Jack Black is flying off of the bench into the sky.
Off of the bench.
Off of the bench. Jim, you
He's
can
not
see,
even
the
on
people at
the
home
bench.
can't, but you can see on the camera right now
Oh
the
my
absolute
God, dude.
absurdity.
It's so bad.
It's insane. Everything about this car. And when you open it, Jim, look at what the DVD is.
It's feet, right? Is that what that? Oh, they're on a scale.
It's
Oh
a
my
yeah, it's
god.
feet on a scale, and the scale is flying past 300 pounds.
I was gonna say I couldn't read the numbers, and I thought it was because it was just blurry on your camera, but that's just how they look, huh?
Yeah, it's just everything about this is they took every avenue they could to be as horrific as possible.
Dude, this is like already off to such a bad start.
This is before we've read even a single
I
line.
know.
His
Yeah,
log line.
get to the DVD jacket already.
Jack Black is Shallow Hal, a superficial skirt chaser who, after a mind altering experience with a self help guru, doesn't realize that his gorgeous girlfriend is actually a 300-pound, not so hottie. Meanwhile, Hal's playboy pal Maurizio is determined to break the spell before someone gets squashed. Packed with loads of laughs and nonstop fun, it's the biggest love story ever told. I can't.
So bad.
So bad.
I'm surprised there wasn't a sunny side up pun. I was
I just
expecting
no,
that.
even our glorious man wouldn't touch this one with a 10-foot pole. He was like, "No, I'm not writing that one."
Yeah, yeah.
He's like,
Oh
"What
my
I do is
god,
art.
dude.
This is not art."
Yeah, I mean, it's just wild to me. This whole premise of this movie is wild.
Yeah, I dude, the fact that they didn't even miss a beat to do squashed. Like,
Yeah,
I can't take it. I can't.
the dot's written on there, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely it's insane. I can't take it. It's
Like
it's
in case you didn't get what they were going for, they put the dot just to make sure that it did that squash didn't sneak by you.
so that you really understood. And I also find it hilarious that they wrote Playboy pal Maurizio and then in parentheses wrote that it was played by Jason Alexander. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Playboy pal. He's not a very successful Playboy.
Yeah, it's like you think Playboy, you're thinking like these big hot studs. They're like, I know it's Jason Alexander. It's George Costanza.
Yeah,
It's like, oh yeah, totally. All right, moving past that hellacious log line. We said it, we got through it, we made it past it. We instead now turn our attentions to our memories of this movie back in the day. Jim, did you see this movie in theaters?
no, definitely not. I
Definitely
mean, I
not.
think I saw it on like HBO or something, whatever movie channel it would have been on. But I was just kind of like on it back then.
Yeah, it never really had much of a lasting impact.
Yeah. What about you? Who did you see this with?
So me, Big Rob, and Zach went to go see this. Of course, this is for we're what? This is 2001, so we're like 11 at this point. This
Yeah.
is very. I could see like 11-year-old TJ going to the movies with Zach and Rob, just eating this movie up back
I
then.
feel
Just
like I could see you guys going to that movie like tomorrow. That's that's what
honestly,
that's what
that's
I've been
not
picturing.
that's not wrong. If this movie was coming out in theaters now, we easily could be rounded up to go see this movie still in theaters. Absolutely. Um, I don't really remember if I was a big fan of it or not, because usually for me back then, if I was a big fan of a movie, I watched it a lot. I watched it religiously. And this was not one that I had seen a lot. I remember seeing it in theaters, and I think I maybe watched it one or two more times, like once it came out on DVD. But other than that, I haven't touched this movie probably since, pretty soon after it came out. So I must not have been like the biggest fan, because those movies that I did tend to enjoy a lot when I was a kid there, I still to this day like watch consistently, and this was not one
Yeah.
of them. So I don't think this one had much of the staying impact that a lot of the other Farrelly Brothers movies did.
Yeah, no. For me this is definitely I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this is bottom of the barrel Farrelly Brothers movie for me. I think this is the one they made that I like the least.
I'll have to wait for the IMDb deep dive to hear some of their other ones before I can
Yeah.
give mine. But I would probably also agree that this one is probably more towards the bottom
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah. You're
pile.
right though. I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get into that later.
Yeah. I don't really have much trivia as I was really going into this. It really didn't have there was not as much lore that you could really deep dive on a movie called Shallow Hal. The only thing that I was reading about that really made me chuckle was Had to have been some clown on IMDb who thought he was really funny writing this. But so the first bit of trivia on IMDb when you're looking up Shallow Hal
Uh-huh.
writes somebody wrote, ironically, Jack Black had to lose weight for this role.
I believe it, dude.
And it's like that's like really like I believe that he had to lose weight for it, but just it just made me laugh that I saw that they wrote ironically.
Yeah. Well,
Like
it is because the whole point, it's like the movie's supposed to be about acceptance and like, loving people for who they are and like finding your match and then they're like, all right, you're gonna star in that movie that's like all heartfelt, and we just need you to lose about 15 pounds.
no, it's hilarious. And that when I saw that that made me laugh uncontrollably for whatever reason. And I was like, all right, that Jim's gonna enjoy that one. I gotta pass that one on to him because that one's pretty funny. But all right, Jim, enough of the foreplay. Let's dive into the goodies. Let's dive into those box office numbers.
Numbers, dates, and numbers, numbers, dates, array, dates, numbers. Show me the money.
All right, so Shallow Hal opens November 9th through the November 11th of 2001. Um, it does not open number one. It comes in
Ooh,
with 22.5 million and number two that week. Do you want to take a guess, or do you know what beats it?
what's the genre?
Um, it's a kids movie.
The kids movie?
It's like an animated movie.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. Is it animated? Animated kids movie 2001. We already did Shrek.
I think fall 2001.
Okay, so we already did Shrek, and it's not Shrek. Evil. Is it Monsters Inc?
Yeah, Monsters Inc.
Dude, giddy up, giddy up.
Did you know
Damn.
that one? That was a pretty good pull.
No, I didn't know that one, but I did. I knew that Monsters Inc. went up against Shrek for the first Academy Award, and
Oh
by
yeah,
process of
that's
elimination, since we did
no,
Shrek
that's
already,
well done. Yeah, well done. That's a really good way to
thank
figure
you.
that
I
out.
big brain moment right there for me. Big brain moment.
Yeah.
Why did I not go see Monsters Inc. instead of Shallow
I
Hal?
don't know, dude. You're really fucking up.
Dude, that would have been the fucking movie right there. But
Yeah, we could have been
that
doing Monsters Inc. right now instead of this
I
bullshit.
know. What have we done? But Shallow Hal's gonna take a record here, Jim. 22.5 is good enough to put Shallow Hal as the worst opening weekend of the movies that we've done so far. It's now gonna sit in last place right behind Dr. Dolittle 2's 25 million.
Dang. So, all right. I mean, it's still like close to Doctor Dolittle 2, which, if I remember correctly, had some pretty decent legs.
It did. I don't foresee Shallow Hal having that good of legs.
Yeah, no, me neither. But so all right, so it loses to Monsters Inc., which comes in at 45.5 million. That's in its second weekend, by the way. So Shallow Hal loses to weekend two of Monsters Inc.
Oh, so it wasn't
Couple
even
other,
Monster Inc.'s first weekend. That's crazy.
yeah, couple of other like things that are out right now, just for some context that I think
Okay.
we're gonna miss in our thing. This is week two of The One, the Jet Li movie, The One.
Oh man.
Which every time I think I've hammered down what my next pick is going to be here in a couple episodes, I run into something like The One, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh no.
Do I really want to pick that other movie?
God, the one.
Uh, we also have, do you remember the Kevin Spacey movie, K-Pax?
He's like an alien, right?
Yeah, he's an alien in a human body.
Yeah. Isn't like Jeff Bridges in that too?
I think
I
so,
think
yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time.
it's hilarious.
Training Day is still in theaters. It's in its sixth week.
Oh
From
wow.
Hell, the Johnny Depp movie, is in its fourth week.
Sweet. Good time at the
Uh,
cinema right now.
another all-time classic movie, Corky Romano, is in its fifth week, down at
Ah,
18.
now there's the real comedy classic I should have went and
Yeah,
seen
what
at
did we
this
do? How
time.
did we miss Corky Romano, dude?
You guys want some cookies?
Weekend two, Shallow Hal drops to third. It comes in with 12.1 million for a 46.2% drop.
Standard.
Um, Opening number one this weekend to what, at first glance, I think might be a really big number, but I'm not going to say what it is because I have a feeling that it will be a future episode.
I'm thinking that is a movie that's going to kick off a long-standing franchise, Jim.
Yeah, and if we go by the trend that you are a basic bitch and you see all the movies that open number one, you definitely wouldn't have missed this one. Let me put it that way.
Well, if it's the one that's kicking off this franchise, then I don't think I missed a single one of those.
Yeah. So yeah, so and Monsters Inc. is still floating there in second. Shallow Hal drops to fifth with 8.5 million in its third week. A couple notables that come out this week: Spy Game, the
I,
Brad Pitt Robert Redford movie, I think, right?
it's an underrated movie right there. That's a good one.
Black Knight, the Martin Lawrence film,
That's a
which is
comedy. That's a comedy classic
a
right there.
really funny movie. Martin Lawrence doesn't get nearly enough credit for his movie career, dude. And then Out Cold, which is that, I don't know if you remember that snowboarding
Yeah,
movie
the
that came
snowboarding
out.
movie. Yeah, that was a movie I watched religiously as a kid.
Yeah, and then let's ride Shallow Hal out of the top 10 here. Let's see where it drops out.
Honestly, by the time you got to weekend 3, I was shocked it was still here.
Yeah, so it stays in the top 10 through weekend 6, and then in weekend
Jesus.
7, it takes a pretty big drop here. It goes from ninth down to 17th.
Oh boy. Still though, 6 weeks in the top 10 was more than I was gonna give it credit for. Let's take a look
Yeah,
at our little chart that we have over here. So 6 weeks in the top 10 is good enough to put Shallow Hal in the number 13 spot, just behind Dr. Dolittle 2 at 7 weeks and just ahead of the Rugrats movie at 5 weeks. Oh, hey, Shallow Hal, looking at this chart, Shallow Hal spent more time in the top 10 than Jurassic Park 3 did and the first X-Men movie, to put that into some context.
that's an interesting one because I think both of those might actually be pretty fair. like, like I think you could make an argument that this is a better movie than either of those movies.
Well, we will be spending the rest of this episode making that argument.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to, but I think you could if you really wanted to. And then let's just finish it up with some totals here. Domestic, it comes in at 70.8 million. International, it makes 70.2 million for a worldwide total of $141 million.
All right. So while Shallow Hal ended up having the worst opening weekend for our movies here on the podcast, it manages to just steer clear of that feat again for the worldwide total. So it is now going to be second to last. It's going to be in the 18th spot, just behind Pokemon, the first movie, with 172.7, and just barely edging out our last place movie, the Rugrats movie, with 140.9.
Wow, that's tight.
Yeah, so it
That's tight.
just squeaked by.
Yeah. So if the box office is any indicator, people back then also didn't like this movie.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess despite their best efforts to make it seem like it was a heartfelt romp, the audience did not turn up in droves for it.
Although let's really quick, $40 million budget. So that's probably like they're probably pretty happy with it, honestly.
No, it still made its money back for 40 for a comedy that cost 40 million. 100 for as even for a comedy back then, still 141 worldwide is pretty good.
Yeah, this is like that mid-budget success that, it's like those singles and doubles we talk about all the time that they just don't even try to get anymore.
So despite critical acclaim, they still managed to eke themselves out enough of a total that it made the whole venture worthwhile.
Well, yeah, there's enough big Robs in the world.
But
There's
all right, let's dive into this beast. What worked, what didn't work? Jim, let's hear some thoughts on Shallow Hal.
I mean, I think the thing that I liked the most about the movie was Gwyneth Paltrow's mom because
Okay.
she is, in the biggest sense of the word, the MVP of all wingmen of all time. she in the I'm kind of skipping to the end here, but this is the part that is like fresh in my mind, and this is the part that made me laugh the most, like out of this
Okay.
whole movie. When he walks in and he's gonna do the big like romantic comedy, like romantic movie gesture, which is like
Gesture.
really, if you think about it, kind of insane. Like he's showing up at the party and he still doesn't know what she looks like, so he starts making out with that maid.
He just sees like the first thick woman he can find and just starts making out with her.
Yeah,
It's
and he's
insane.
like super into it. And the mom walks in on him, and he gives her the line. He's like, "I got some things to say to your daughter, and I'm not leaving until I say them," like something like that, right? And she's just like, "All right, yeah, cool." Like, just like, okay, stop doing that though, and then like, let's go outside. We'll talk to her, dude. She takes that shit to the grave.
Yeah, right? Like she just walks in on this dude who just completely imploded in a horrible fashion the relationship that he had with her daughter. She comes in and catches him making out with the maid for whatever reason and just decides to brush it off and be like, "Yeah,
Dude,
okay, come on, go get my daughter."
if she thought twice, it was barely, dude. She didn't skip a beat. She was on it, dude. And I'm like I said, she's never telling a single soul that that happened ever.
Taking it to the dude, she's a true wing woman.
Yeah, so that was the part I liked the most probably because it was just so unhinged.
Yeah,
um,
I think a lot of this movie is very unhinged. And one of the things that you spoke about before that I do want to kind of give a bit of an olive branch to this movie for is it was a lot more heartfelt and less trying to just be a big joke than I thought it was going to be. Because I remember when we were talking first about how we were going to have to watch this movie, how we were saying like, I do not think this movie is going to hold up. I think this movie is going to be a bunch of low hanging fruit jokes, and there are plenty of low hanging fruit jokes in this movie,
yeah.
but it definitely tries to be more warm-hearted than I ever thought this movie would be watching it now. And it does seem that a lot of the time, not always, they don't always land it, but a lot of the time they try to make sure that the emphasis of the joke is on Jack Black and Jason Alexander for being shitty people and not on fat people.
Yeah, yeah. I can mostly agree with that. And I think like the biggest reason why I think that this doesn't feel like completely like reprehensible to me is because they like Jack Black um you're rooting for him. You know what I mean? He's not really a bad guy. Like you understand why he is the way he is after we get that opening where his dad is saying all kinds of crazy stuff to him.
It's just another
Um
insane thing.
yeah, so like you understand why he is the way he is. And like, they tell us they're like even Tony Robbins thinks he's a cool guy. And if you're good in Tony Robbins' book, you're good in my book, man, you know? Um but but so like you're rooting for him and like he never like outright says like that he wouldn't do it. Like once he falls in love with this girl, it's never really a deal breaker for him. The thing that's holding him back in the second half is just that he's an idiot. He thinks it's going to go way worse than it actually is going to go. So he's like psyching himself out and doing all kinds of stupid stuff. He's not like, "Oh my god, that's disgusting. I'm never going to talk to her again." Like he never gets to that point.
It does manage to toe that line, I feel like, and it keeps itself from being just one big joke where you're sitting there watching this and just being like, this is just come on, like even for 2001, like come on.
Yeah. So like no, and it's still like really crazy at some parts where I'm just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they did that." But like I
Yeah,
said, you're rooting for the guy. So like you said there's some heart in it for you, you know?
absolutely. And yeah, no, there is still plenty of moments where you are sitting back and you're like, oh Jesus fucking Christ. One of the things that took me forever, like I watched this with Heather, and and she had to keep telling me to shut up because I just couldn't get past this like notion until Tony Robbins like explained it. And it was like how so he gets this like mind alteration where now he sees the inner beauty inside, so he sees Gwyneth Paltrow, but really she's this big huge girl. But
Yeah.
all the times when they're like hugging or touching or anything, I'm like, how does he not like I don't understand how he feels the skinny girl and doesn't feel like when he goes to touch her that it would be like his hand stops miles before he sees her body. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, she's still like, she just altered his perception, not what he could actually touch. So I couldn't get past that. Every time they did anything, I'm like, I don't understand. Like how?
I
'Cause then,
actually
like,
I have a quote from one of the directors about this exact thing if you want me to
oh,
play it.
well, you can, but they do answer it in the movie when Jason Alexander is like yelling at Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins is basically like, like it's the whole thing is the perception. So like basically it's altered like his ability of what he's feeling. Like to him, it all just connects to the same thing. Which like in my head, I'm like, kind of a cop out, but all right, whatever. Because
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like
No,
when they get together to
I
have
think
sex and she throws her panties at him and he sees that they're huge and he's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
get
And
over here, you
she's
minx.
like
And
a
it's just like,
magician,
what?
yeah. But no, so the I think when you hear this quote, it's gonna make a lot more sense, and I think you're gonna like think it's less of a cop out.
Okay.
Right? I'm gonna introduce. Here you go.
It's not sorcery, it's science.
You motherfucker. You really
That's
had
I
me,
mean,
you son of a bitch.
it's not sorcery, dude. It's science. They got it, man. That's all you need to know.
Oh my god. I gotta give you props because I really honestly thought you were about to play something from the director.
Oh man.
Oh,
No, but I mean Mark
hook, line,
Wahlberg
and
didn't
sinker,
direct this
Jim.
movie. Is that what you're saying?
Hook, line, and sinker. You got me, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I ain't
yeah,
been humiliated and embarrassed like that in my whole entire life.
oh god, that's so funny. But yeah, it's I guess it's science. Tony Robbins explained it. It has to make sense at that point.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
I
mean,
couldn't get past it. And
he
Heather's
pushed
just
the
like, you
demons
gotta
out of him,
stop.
dude. He put his hand on his head and like shook it and everything. And it all makes sense
Like,
to me.
what'd you do to me, banana hands? Like, it was like the
Yeah.
silliest insults.
Bananas.
Oh, dude, this movie is absolutely so silly.
Yeah,
And
Tony Robbins acting horrible, by the way.
I mean,
I
like,
really didn't enjoy it.
what did you really expect at that point? One of the things that I find the funniest too, and it's something that for me works a lot in this movie too, is that I liked that they picked, kind of like frumpy guys to play this because you do always tend to see it's always like those basement dwelling, like gross dudes in a sense that always seem to have the most like ridiculous taste in women and
Oh
are so
yeah,
like shallow to the point that they're like they won't touch anything other than a 10 and it's like dude look in the mirror like you think you're getting any like you're not getting
yeah.
anywhere close to a 10 like come
They're
down to
too
earth.
they're too insecure to like just get to know people. You know what I mean? Like they can't like because they think it reflects on them if they're with somebody who is not necessarily traditionally attractive.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because I watch so much stuff on YouTube that's just littered with guys like that that just lose their minds over nonsense in regards to women. And then I watch this movie and I'm like, dude, that's them. Like that's these guys. Like they
Yeah,
need Tony
it's
Robbins, man.
100%
Like
them. Yeah, like Jason Alexander would have a YouTube channel, and if this movie came out today, you know what I'm saying?
absolutely. He'd be on there like complaining about like every woman in video games that he feels isn't like the new Tomb Raider where they're like, she's not as hot, man. It's ridiculous. Where'd her
Yeah.
boobs go?
You'd be
Like
playing like
that.
Call of Duty Warzone like 12 hours a day and just streaming on Kick or something.
Yeah, exactly. Another one of the things that I enjoy in this that I think helps, sell this a lot better is I think all the performances are solid. It helps that they got Jack Black for this because that dude is just so effortlessly like endearing. So like
Yeah, yeah.
like you want to root for him to be better person in this, even before like you really start getting into like, well, he's not really a bad guy. He's just, like had bad advice as a kid that he's, taken to be an adult. But just instantly when you see Jack Black, you're just like, dude, I'm with this guy. Like he's just so lovable. Like when
He's
you
the
see him out there
everything.
like trying to dance with like all the girls, and he's just so embarrassing on the dance floor. I died at the one scene where it was like a girl was dancing up against the
On the
wall.
wall, yeah, and he like
She had her
snuck
hands
his
up,
way
and yeah,
underneath.
and he just creeps up underneath, like, and he's just got that weird smile, like doing his like silly head dance. Like
And
I
then she
lost
like
it.
opens her eyes and realizes he did that
Yeah,
and is like, oh.
yeah, and then just walks away. Like I died. So it really helped that they got just like somebody as endearing and just hilarious as Jack Black. Because he's just great. He makes this movie so much more entertaining.
Yeah.
Because
Couple
a
of
lesser
other
comedic actor could have really made that movie fall off a cliff very quickly.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm trying to think who else could be in this. I think like Ben Stiller could have pulled it off.
Yeah, he does that like kind of awkward character very well too. I think he would have been funny there too, in a completely different way to Jack Black, but one that still would have worked because he is also very funny.
Yeah, he's definitely pulled off that same kind of like everyman quality from now and again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that made me laugh that it was another thing that kind of took me out of the movie because the whole time I'm like trying to figure out what the choice was in doing it was like, was it just me or did like Jack Black and Jason Alexander both have these like weird nasally pitches to their voice than they normally do? Like if you
Yeah,
listen,
maybe.
like if you play back that opening scene that we played, not the one that we played at the beginning of the episode, but the one with Tony Robbins and Jason Alexander, his voice is so much more nasalier than he is in like real life and than he is in like Seinfeld. And the whole time I'm watching, I'm just like, dude, what was the reasoning to sound like this in this movie? Because Jack Black does it at sometimes also where he seems like more of like a nasalier pitch. And I'm like, was this just something the two of them like concocted together? Because they're like, hey, like we're just weird, like dwelling, like playboys. Like we would
I
have this like
guess.
weird
Which clip
voice.
are you talking about? I'll play it really fast.
So it was before we went on the air. You played the one for me with Tony Robbins and Jason Alexander.
I don't
Um,
think I have one with the two of them.
did you? I could have sworn you played
No,
something with
I
Jason
definitely don't.
Alexander. Am I losing?
He's in a couple. He's in one of them.
Then you played me something with
He's
Jason
in two of
Alexander.
them actually. He's in two of
Yeah.
them.
Oh, that's what it was. Is when they're talking in the apartment, and Jason Alexander realizes that he
Oh, okay.
screwed over Shallow Hal. I don't know
Yeah, yeah,
why I
yeah.
keep
So hold
calling
on.
him Shallow Hal instead of just saying it.
I'll
But
play
yeah,
the
all right. So
clip. Let me
play
see if I
play
let me
play
see
that
if I know what
soundboard so
you're
the
talking
people at
about.
home can kind of hear what I'm talking about.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Who's the all-time love of your life?
Wonder Woman?
Okay, well, let's say Wonder Woman falls in love with you, right? Would it bother you if the rest of the world didn't find her attractive?
Not at all, because I know they'd be wrong.
That's what I had with Rosemary. I saw a knockout. I don't care what anybody else saw.
Jeez, I never thought about it that way. Hey, I guess I really did screw you, huh?
Not so much Jack Black in that one. Jack Black sounded like normal Jack Black there, but there's just like moments of George Costanza. I always just instantly go to say George Costanza instead of Jason Alexander. That
Yeah.
just sound like nasally. And I'm like, and the whole time I'm watching the movie, I'm like, why? What was the decision in that?
Yeah, no, I think I'm hearing what you're talking about. It might just be that you like put it in my head now. I don't know.
I'm just subliminally infecting everybody now who's gonna watch Shallow Hal and be like, yeah, why did he do that? Because when I was first watching it, I just thought it was my DVD. I was like, is this DVD just so old that like it's just
Are
warped in the
you
sound?
are you sure it's not your DVD still?
Honestly, no, at this point. I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore.
I think it's still a possibility in my mind, dude.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. Another thing, I'm honestly shocked that they convinced Gwyneth Paltrow to be in this movie.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I wanna go into her IMDb deep dive, but I think she's probably too famous at this point, really. So it's pretty weird to me that she did it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, to be pulled into this one too. There was a funny thing I was reading. It was an interview with Gwyneth Paltrow where she was talking about how wearing the fat suit really bothered her because she wore it out in public one day in the streets of New York and nobody looked at her. So it made her feel, she's like, now I know what it feels like, to like not be looked at and to have like, that fat suit on it. And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, you're in New York City. Like nobody gives a fuck. Like nobody was looking because nobody ever looks at anyone in New York City. They mind their own business. Like I had a friend in New York City once vomiting all over his own stomach, and nobody turned or batted an eye. Like it's New York City.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd probably look at Gwyneth Paltrow before I looked at that thing you just described.
I'm just saying a lot of crazy shit goes on in New York City. I don't think
Yeah,
people
no,
would
no,
be
no.
that concerned with like a person in a fat suit.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I get what you're saying. Yeah. But
That
I
just made
think
me
her
laugh.
point was like people would look at her all the time when she was Gwyneth Paltrow, and she was probably like, "Oh man, this sucks. I'm like invisible now."
Yeah, the vanity of Hollywood superstars.
That's her villain origin story. That's the day she decided to found Goop.
Oh my God, imagine.
That's the thing.
He's just running up to people in the fat suit, like, I'm Gwyneth Paltrow. And they're like, yeah, lady, show whatever you say.
If you were Gwyneth Paltrow, you'd sell some skin cream. I'll show you.
Yeah, what else can you think of for this movie, Jim? What else spoke to you?
I mean, I just didn't like, and we'll get into this in a minute, I think, but I said this earlier, it was, I could sort of see the Farrelly brothers in it, but it was just such a lackluster attempt compared to all the other movies they've made that I genuinely really love. And like some that really skirt the line too, but like do it in a way that's funnier. So it's like they get away with it more, in my opinion.
Definitely seems like they were probably, I don't know if they were hampered or not in like their ability to what they were able to do, or if they imposed this on themselves given the subject matter, but maybe they felt to be more reserved and less as, you know, over the top and over the line as they have in some movies. I think to like Matt Dillon's character and There's Something About Mary really springs to mind as someone who like really goes over the line a lot in his dialogue, but is still like
Yeah.
really funny. And you don't get a lot of that bite in this movie. It seems like the safest jokes that they could make about being overweight. And I wonder if that's because they were like, we really have to toe the line with this one because we don't want to, go over the line with this subject
Yeah,
matter.
I guess. I just think there's like a big difference between Ben Stiller and Matt Dillon. Like Ben Stiller slash Matt Dillon slash Jim Carrey slash Chris Rock, all these people that are starring in slash Woody Harrelson, you know what I mean? Like all these people that are starring in Farrelly Brothers movies at the time. There's a
Chris
big difference between the names I just listed you and Jack Black in 2001. You know what I'm saying? Like
True, very true. What Farley Brothers movie was Chris Rock in?
Oh, we'll get into it in a minute, man. That's why I'm trying to tease a little bit here.
Oh my, yeah, you are. Because I was like every other person, I'm like immediately naming the movie in my head, but then you said Chris Rock, and I'm like, what the fuck movie was he in with that?
Oh, I forgot about Jimmy Fallon too, and Dennis Quaid.
Oh my God, you're naming so many people. What the fuck? Dennis Quaid? What?
Yeah. Oh, you'll see, you'll see.
My God, you really. But yeah, and obviously you could tell because Jack Black is really just starting out to be showcased here, as
Yeah,
opposed to
yeah.
the other actors who are really top of the line at this point. Ben Stiller, and There's Something About Mary,
Well, and like
top of the line.
Jack Black definitely gets like way more famous from 2001 to like, at some point between then and now. But he
Yeah,
never gets to the level as some of the guys I just mentioned. You know what I'm saying?
very true,
like
very
in
true.
terms of like acting chops, in my opinion. So, it's like I think that's part of it. It's like him and Jason Alexander aren't really the same as having Ben Stiller and Matt Dillon carry your movie.
So I guess it's probably like a combination between everything. Because I feel like if you had There's Something About Mary Farley Brothers on this movie is a lot more cutting edge and maybe mean at times with its dialogue and biting jokes. Because you don't feel that in here. All the every they do the same recycled joke throughout this movie, which is just her sitting in a seat and the seat breaks. And every time it gets less and less funny. Like I'll give them the first one, and I don't think the first bit, like when they're at the restaurant getting the burgers, and her seat just completely gives out, and all the legs fold on each other, and she goes down. Like that's not the funny bit. The bit that makes it funny is when Jack Black is losing his mind about it to the guy who works there, and he goes, you got to get better legs, man. Like what are these legs made out of? And the guy's like,
Yeah.
steel. Like that's what makes the joke funny. But then they just keep doing that same one where anytime they're somewhere, she's just destroying chairs. And I was like, all right, yeah, like, is that
Yeah.
the one joke you got for this? Like,
The only other like sight gag that got me really bad, like and again, it's mostly because it's kind of tangentially related to the fact that it's supposed to be an obese woman.
Mm.
But when she jumps in the pool and the splash happens, and the dad is like, "Where's Johnny?" And then they cut to the kid in the tree,
in
like
the
on
tree.
a branch. That cut like really cracked me up, dude. That was like really funny.
Yeah, so like there's one or two of them in there, but again, it's always going back to like the same well, in regards to like what they're going to make fun of, in regards to her weight.
That's what I didn't like. It wasn't very funny. Like I thought it was like kind of funny, but not like really like side splitting, you know? And
Yeah, like it had moments, but a lot of the times, a lot of it falls flat because they either are too afraid to be a little bit more biting or they just want to go for the low hanging fruit. One of the bits I did like that really I think cements like the just the absolute shallowness of these characters, especially for Maurizio, is the minute things that ruin it for them. Because we keep seeing,
uh,
the girl that Maurizio's dating, and she's a knockout. She's gorgeous.
that
But
was
because
that was a
she
funny bit.
yeah, but she's got the surfer toe where like the one toe is bigger than the big toe. So like he's like, I can't be around that. Like, how can I look at that? And it's like, and
I don't
she's
know if that's a surfer toe. Is your toes not like that?
yeah, no, that's a surfer toe where the other toe is bigger, longer than the big toe. They call it a surfer toe.
Oh, not because you surf though.
Yeah, no, not because you surf. I think
Okay.
that's just what they
Yeah, no,
call it.
because that's how my middle, like my second toe is bigger than my big toe. It's like taller.
Oh, dude, good thing you're not dating
Yeah.
Maurizio, bro. He wouldn't be about that.
Yeah.
But then, because that bit cracked me up when she shows up and she's like, "I got tickets. Like, the Beatles are getting together
The
for like
Beatles
one
reunion with
show."
Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton. All
So,
because their one
there's only
toe
gonna be
is
like
big.
70 people going. It's it's invitation only, and he's like, nah, that's okay.
Like, I'm good. Like those bits, that bit really got me because it really does it like it helps, build the theme of just the absolute stupid shallowness of these two idiots.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it has
it
its
shows how
moments,
much
but
like I like it too because it's a moment like that where it shows that there's at least a little bit of screenwriting thought going into it because now you see that and even Jack Black is like, dude, what's the matter with you? So it shows that his friend Maurizio, this is what Jack Black could become if he doesn't get his head on right and
well, and
doesn't like
just
figure this thing out.
even like that he's not that guy. You know what I mean? Like they have to like make a distinction between them because we really don't like Jason Alexander in this movie,
Yeah,
right?
he's
Like
kind of he's really much a big prick until you get the reveal that it's all just because he's afraid because he's got a tail, which
yeah,
is
I
another
actually
insane moment in this movie.
I have another clip of the director talking
I,
about Jason Alexander's
I'm not
character
I'm
in
not
this
falling.
movie. I think this is Peter Farrelly that says
You
this.
could play it, but I'm not falling for this one.
Yeah. He when asked about Jason Alexander, he said
He's a weasel.
so like they
The
need to
fuck?
draw a distinction between them so we know Jack Black isn't a weasel, you know what I mean? And then like the other big problem I have with this movie is if you're gonna be a comedy that's pushing 2 hours, you really need to be good. Like if you're not hitting on jokes consistently, like I'm gonna get really bored really fast.
Yeah, and there are large portions of this movie that you're going through like multiple scenes that just aren't funny. And granted, they want to be a little bit of heartwarming, so not everything can be funny. They want to throw those heartwarming moments in there, and that's fine. But there's gotta always be that like ability to think that the next joke is gonna come out of nowhere, and you don't always get that in this movie.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what else this movie doesn't have? It doesn't have like the Bill Murray and Kingpin moments. You know what I mean? That are just like so absurd. You know what? Like the end of
Yeah,
Kingpin with Bill Murray is like one of the funniest things I've ever seen because there's nothing like that in it that's super memorable either. You know, it's like completely forgettable.
yeah, they don't really have anything that you have that's outrageous to hook on to in this movie. And I guess like the biggest one they were probably going for was the friend that they have that like walks on all fours. Like I don't know what they never really explain what ailment he
Not
has that makes that.
not not quite the performance that Bill Murray had in Kingpin. Not
Yeah,
quite on that level.
yeah, not quite that level. Because like I think what's the biggest joke they do with him is where he's putting the gloves on when he's going into the truck stop urinal. He's like,
Oh
"You ever
yeah,
walked on all fours into a urinal?" It's like, oh, yeah, great joke.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have much more to say about Shallow Hal. It's like
Much
I feel like we've gone on long enough.
much like the title of the movie, it's very
Yeah.
shallow in our ability to be able to expertly criticize this comedy. But I think we touched on all the big beats, at least in within this movie. You know, it had its chance, you know, to be a more biting comedy, didn't take the bait, and it just ends up kind of falling into those like forgettable comedies where you chuckle a few times, but ultimately, you know, in a few months after you've seen it, you'll forget you even saw it.
Yeah. And I'm chomping at the bit, dude, to start doing some IMDb.
I thought you said you were gonna say you were chomping at the bit to forget this movie.
No, no. I'm, I want to talk about the Farrelly brothers, dude.
All right, all right, all right. Cue it up. I'll give it to you. Cue it up, my friend. All right. Talk about your Farley brothers.
Okay. So we talk about a lot of the time, right? I always try and point out when I see like a really sick run of movies all in a row.
Yes.
So we're gonna start the Farrelly brothers off. There's like a weird video credit in here. We're gonna not count that. But the Farrelly brothers' first 5 movies: Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, There's Something About Mary, Me, Myself, and Irene, and then the Chris Rock Osmosis Jones.
That's what they did. I was when you said Chris Rock, I was thinking like Down to Earth, but I was like, I don't know if the Farley brothers did Down to Earth. I was like, but
No,
what
they
the fuck
didn't.
did? Yeah, dude, Osmosis Jones is such an underrated movie. To save a lot of time, I would put every single one of those movies over Shallow Hal.
Yeah, that dude, that's such a sick run of 5 movies for like a comedy directing duo. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody with a run like that. I think
yeah.
that
No,
there's
that's
maybe like a couple of them out there.
that's absolutely fantastic run right there. You know, I would put all of those ahead of Shallow Hal.
By
And my
like a lot. Like
yeah, by a lot. And my
it's not close.
and my favorite Farley Brothers movie is There's Something About Mary.
Yeah, there's something about Mary's so it's like one of the funniest movies of all time, man.
I
When
still
that
me and Phil will randomly text each other after not talking for months, and it'll just be There's Something About Mary quotes.
Yeah, where does he go when he says he like is gonna go work for Rice Aroni? He's like going to
Yeah.
Miami,
He's like,
right?
I'm going, yeah. I remember he's like, I thought that was a San Francisco treat. It's like, ah, they're changing
No,
their
no,
image.
they're like changing their whole image.
Changing their whole image.
So stupid. But yeah, so they have that run of 5 movies, and that's in the lead up to Shallow Hal. Osmosis Jones and Shallow Hal come out the same year, so I don't know if exactly which one of those was first or not.
Big year for the Farley brothers.
Yeah, but so then, so like I put all of those ahead of Shallow Hal, like we said. Their next movie after Shallow Hal, 2003's Stuck on You.
It's a tough one. Those two movies are pretty close.
Dude, no, I'm telling you, Stuck on You is one of the funniest movies ever made. It's so good.
I do remember enjoying it when I saw it as a kid, but that's another one that I probably haven't seen in the same amount of time that I haven't seen Shallow Hal, so I'd have to rewatch it. I still
Dude,
would give the edge to Stuck on You, but I do have to rewatch that movie. But I do remember enjoying it because I love Matt Damon.
Stuck on You has one of the funniest gags of all time in it, and you didn't see this in theaters, right? So we can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I did not see this one in theaters.
Okay. It has one of the funniest gags of all time in it where they're conjoined by like their liver or something. Like so they're always together, they're conjoined twins. And like they're all always doing everything together, but they each like think that each other are like specializing in things. So like they're like a hockey goalie and it's just this huge guy standing in the net. But like later on they're like, no, you're the athlete, John. Like it's like it's like one of the funniest bits in a movie ever. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. But it's like we might have to watch Stuck on You at some point.
It'd be a good flick you missed.
but
for
much
the
better than Shallow Hal.
2003 era.
It's so much more clever than Shallow Hal is by like a mile. They have after that Blit Happens or Shallow Hal. I don't know what Blit Happens is.
What? Yeah, I've never even heard of that movie.
Yeah. So all right, this is probably one you've heard of. Do you take Shallow Hal or Fever Pitch?
Dude, I do not like Fever Pitch.
I love Fever Pitch too.
I'd still take Fever Pitch over Shallow Hal.
Yeah, I'm taking Fever Pitch for sure, man.
I do like
Shallow.
Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, she's great in that too. Even Jimmy Fallon's good in that movie, which is like, who knew that could be a thing?
Who knew the Farrelly brothers of all people could pull out a good performance out of Jimmy
Yeah.
Fallon?
And then all right, so have you ever seen The Heartbreak Kid?
Yeah, it's with Ben Stiller, right? And
Yeah,
and
Ben
Alan
Stiller.
Ackerman.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh yeah, no, that one's funny too. Yeah, I would take that over Shallow Hal. Yeah, I think what we're learning is Shallow Hal probably is also going to come in and dead last for me.
It's their worst movie by like a mile, man. All right. They direct one episode of TV for some show called Unhitched. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Then would you take Shallow Hal or 2011's Hall Pass?
Hall Pass.
Yeah, Hall Pass is so funny, dude.
Jason Sudeikis is so funny in that.
Yeah.
Fake chowder.
Him and Owen Wilson really kill it. After that they have you seen the Three Stooges 2012 Three Stooges?
No, nope.
Me neither.
Steered far away from that one.
They also make Dumb and Dumber 2 together.
Yeah, actually no, I take it back. That's my least favorite Farrelly Brothers movie.
I never saw that one.
I would take Shallow Hal over Dumb and Dumber 2.
Yeah. And then I'm not going to get too much into their split credits, like, because they do have a couple things that they didn't do together.
But we don't care so much about what they did alone.
Yeah. The only
guess
one
the
they did
only
alone
one
that I'm going to mention, because I brought up Dennis Quaid, Peter Farrelly directed 3 segments in movie 43.
Oh, God.
Which
That
movie
fucking
43
movie.
is a really funny movie, dude.
Yeah, dude. Well, guess what? Saw it in theaters.
Nice. What is it? It's Emma Stone and Rory Culkin do one in that, right?
Yeah. They're in like the supermarket. And she's like getting turned on by the bag boy.
Yeah, it's so funny. I like movie 43.
He's fucking ridiculous.
It really is. But all right, so that's it for the Farrelly brothers. I want to play a little game here with Jack Black.
Okay.
So Shallow Hal is the first movie that Jack Black plays the lead in. But Jack Black, with a total of 187 credits in his career, has a lot of wacky shit going on. Like,
So he was probably
like
a lot. He was
before
probably
Shallow Hal.
he was probably that guy in so many movies in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, right. Like, if Jack Black doesn't become, like, a household name, he's maybe the best that guy ever. Just a couple here. He gets the credit Wasteland Scrap in Demolition Man.
Oh my God.
I don't know what Wasteland Scrap means. I don't know. I don't know or even remember if I recognize Jack Black in Demolition Man. I'm going to have to look out for it now, but that's a crazy one. He gets the credit Slip in The Neverending Story 3 in 1994.
What? These movies already.
Another classic. What's your favorite Kevin Costner movie from the 90s?
Oh, there's so many. Do I go the easy route with Dances with Wolves, or do I say my guilty pleasure one?
I think you should say your guilty pleasure one. Don't think about Oscars here. Think about just like amazingness.
Waterworld.
Yeah, Waterworld. Jack Black.
That's
is
right, people at
credited-
home. I like Waterworld.
Who doesn't like Waterworld? They built like a Universal Studios stunt show in the middle of the movie. It was amazing.
Yeah, if you don't like
They were, like-
Waterworld,
They
you're
were
a
like
clown.
jumping over walls and jet skis and shit. That movie's great.
That movie's a fucking classic.
So Jack Black gets the credit of pilot in Waterworld in 1995.
Oh my God.
He gets an episode of The X-Files in 1995.
Okay.
Tenacious D is actually the band in the movie Biodome in 1996.
Which that's so funny.
Yeah. He's in The Cable Guy as Rick.
Yes, I remember that one. I remember him in Cable Guy.
He's in The Fan. Do you remember the movie The Fan?
It's with Wesley Snipes, right?
Yeah, Wesley Snipes and Robert De Niro, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Robert De Niro, like, he gets the credit of broadcast technician in The Fan.
Oh my God, these roles.
He's in Mars Attacks. He plays the older brother in Mars Attacks. That's a bit of a bigger part.
That's a good role for him. Older brother.
He's
If
in.
you don't
Do you
get if
remember?
you don't get an actual name in your credit, like
Oh no, he
you're
has a
that
name
guy.
in Mars Attacks. It's Billy Glenn Norris.
Oh, okay, okay. You
Yeah,
just
yeah. But I just remember he's like the older brother who's like in the Marines or whatever.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
in
he
the
is.
Jackal.
Oh.
He's in the Jackal for like 10 minutes, and I'm pretty sure Bruce Willis like murders him, I think.
Dude,
I haven't seen the Jackal in a long time.
The
He's an Enemy
90s.
of the State.
Dude, what? Like you see all these movies, and then you're like comedy legend. It's like what?
Yeah. So I mean these are all parts that I do not remember. I mean I remember a couple of them. Like probably Enemy of the State and the Jackal. I can think of the scenes he was in and Mars Attacks, but they're all like really out there ones, like where he's like such a small part. And then I think we'll save some of the bigger ones for like when we do Jack Black movies in the future. I just wanted to highlight that like crazy part of his career.
That is a wild and turbulent 90s ride for him.
Yeah. And then all right, so then I want to move on to, and you talked about this a little bit earlier too. What the fuck was Gwyneth Paltrow doing in this movie? like what was
Yeah.
she thinking?
Yeah, I don't know.
Way
I don't
this
know.
was a good move for her.
It's insane.
Because I don't recognize a lot of her like credits from the late 80s and early 90s.
This is post Shakespeare in Love.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, already insane that she's in
this.
this.
Is post Emma, dude, by a long shot.
Yeah,
Do you remember
insane.
Emma?
Yeah, insane.
Emma like made her a star, I'm pretty sure. That was like a big movie.
Yeah. They just didn't
okay.
they just remake it like a year ago and they tried to redo that with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep. But okay, so she gets a credit. I'm gonna pick this movie just because I like this movie, and I don't think we'll ever have another chance to talk about it.
Okay.
Do you take Hook or Shallow Hal?
Who the fuck is she in? She's the
plays
kid.
Young
She plays Wendy,
yeah.
young Wendy. Oh my God.
Young Wendy. Are you on Steven Spielberg's side with Hook? Do you not like Hook?
Dude, Spielberg should not let all these people make him feel abashed about that movie or shameful because Hook is great.
I just think he doesn't like it. I like it a lot.
You love Hook. No, I think he liked it when he made it, and then it got lambasted for so long that he had to just like pivot and be like, yeah, no, I don't know what I was thinking with that one. But he should fucking claim that as a great movie because the set design and everything of that movie is so much fun.
Yeah. So, and like, stop me if you've heard of any of these, because none of
Yes,
these.
people, we like Hook.
I do like Hook. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm gonna skip a couple of TV credits here.
Okay.
Actually, no. Cruel Doubt is a miniseries I've never heard of. Deadly Relations
Never
is a
heard of
TV
that.
movie I've never heard of. Have you heard of Malice?
Is this a movie or a TV show?
It's a movie. It's a movie. We're in movies. 1993 Malice.
Is it with Alec Baldwin?
Let me see. Yep, it is
Dude,
with Alec Baldwin.
I'm fucking good, baby. That's what Maryland does, baby.
Crab kicks in football. That's right. All right.
That
So
movie was
she's
terrible.
you
Shallow Hal.
Wow, Shallow Hal. I'm gonna have to watch Malice now.
Yeah, it's not good.
Flesh and Bone. Does that sound familiar?
Never heard of that. Actually, I think I've heard of it. Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan.
Dude, let's go again, baby. I'm so fucking good. I've never seen that movie.
But I think this is just she's playing like kids probably like in
Yeah, she's
like
yeah.
I've never and I wouldn't even have been able to pick her out. So let's go to one that she's definitely recognizable in. Do you take this is two movies that it's hard to decipher. They're so similar. Like, it's like I can barely tell the difference. Do
Okay.
you take Shallow Hal or Seven?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a real tough one.
Yeah.
Gonna have to put my thinking cap on for that one.
Gwyneth Paltrow, she's in the box in Seven.
She
She's
is
great.
in the box. Seven, obviously. It's like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. Have you seen Hard Eight? That's a name I've heard before.
No, but I have heard of that movie, but I have not seen
It's
it.
like John C. Riley, and she's actually pretty highly credited in this. I have to see this, dude.
Really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Philip.
that's one that slipped through the cracks. It has a lot of people in it.
Yeah, okay. This is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Yeah,
That's
it was
why I've
his
heard of this.
yeah, it was
This
I
is
think
the
it was his
movie he
first
made
one
before Boogie
before.
Nights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then she did Emma. Do you take Shallow Hal or Emma? Have you seen Emma?
I'd take Emma.
I've never seen Emma, but I'm still gonna take it. She was in Great Expectations in '98. Do you take Shallow Hal or Great Expectations?
I actually haven't seen that movie.
Me neither, but I'm taking it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Why not?
And then this is the one that I think probably puts her on the map, like you said earlier, in a big way. Shallow Hal or Shakespeare in Love?
Another toughie. Shakespeare in Love. Even though I will never forgive that movie for beating Saving Private Ryan at the Oscars.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen all of Shakespeare in Love, so I will also join you in your outrage
It's a
about it
good
beating Saving
movie, but
Private Ryan.
like, it's not Saving Private Ryan.
Talented Mr. Ripley or Shallow Hal?
Oh, dude, Talented Mr. Ripley all day. That movie's so good.
Yeah. And then, I mean, oh wow, dude, I forgot she's in the Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, ugh.
You don't like the Royal Tenenbaums?
We've gone through this. I'm not a fucking Wes Anderson fan.
Okay, that's fair.
His shtick I mean, I'll still take Royal Tenenbaums over Shallow Hal because that's one of the more palatable Wes Anderson movies for me.
Yeah,
But I am not a huge fan of that movie.
yeah, for sure. I like the Royal Tenenbaums, and she's really good in the Royal Tenenbaums. She's one of the funniest characters. Okay, then she's in the opening scene of Goldmember. Remember when it's like a movie?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, she's like making
starring
out. Tom Cruise is Austin Powers.
Yeah. Okay. Do you take Shallow Hal or Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow?
Wow. All right. So this one actually is a tough one to decipher. See, now I only watched Sky Captain once when we went and saw it in theaters. So I have no basis. I couldn't tell you a fucking thing that happened in that movie other than it was like that kitschy steampunk black and white. So I don't know that I could like,
Yeah, which had like it was like weirdly popular for a little while.
Yeah.
That whole kind of vibe and look. Like
yeah,
for some reason that was really big between
back
like
then.
2004 and like 2008.
Yeah. So I don't think I could fairly judge without us seeing. So come back to me on this one when we do Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Okay, we'll do Gwyneth Paltrow all over again then. Sure.
Well, just that movie. We'll come back to the well
I'll totally remember that
in
like 2 years from now.
Yeah, like a year or
that's
two.
definitely what's gonna happen
when we get to late 2004.
Yeah. Proof, I think, is another popular one, but maybe just because the name sounds like catchy.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, me neither. So I guess I can't pick, but I think I'm still gonna take it over Shallow Hal.
He's like, just give me Shallow Hal.
And then we're getting into like the Avengers era Gwyneth Paltrow, so I'm not gonna go through like every
Outside, I mean, the only
movie.
ones that she's really a big presence in is the Iron Man movies. So like you could do those ones, but like I wouldn't do.
No, she's in like Infinity War.
She's in it for like 2 minutes.
She's in Spider-Man: Homecoming. She's in. She's in. I think she's in like both Avengers movies. I'm just saying.
Stop it.
Now we just did the whole thing I said I wasn't gonna do, where I just name every Marvel movie.
Stop it right now.
That's fine. I think we've covered it for Gwyneth Paltrow. That was a pretty.
I mean, like,
that was
even
a
if you
pretty
were to dive into
broad
any of
brush.
those anyway, we'd still take any of those movies over Shallow Hal. So a lot of, just encompass all of the MCU over Shallow Hal.
Yeah.
And there you go. But all right, Jim, we're moving on now to or at least my favorite portion of the event tonight. And that is our lovely star ratings.
I'm Roger Ebert. Been a scene from the best film of the decade. This is a great film.
You might want to hold on to that thought, Raj. I don't know if we're going to be calling it that just yet.
Yeah.
But all right, this is the segment of the podcast that everyone loves so much, is when Jim gives his rating and tries to decipher where we're going to land this one on the chart. Because you had for about a week, you had New Mantra Jim, and then we've hit a slate of movies that have just completely ground New Mantra Jim into the dirt. And I got to say, I miss him already.
Well, no. So here's the thing about New Mantra Jim. Not every movie is gonna hit me the same way Doctor Dolittle 2 hit me. You know.
I know. The fact that we had that great high of Dr. Dolittle 2, and then we just hit a string of just mediocrity.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible to be you when you were 12. Let me put it that way. You were saying, like all
Yeah.
these movies you're going to are just like awful.
I know. It was a real tough 2001 for me.
But no, so like this is still kind of New Mantra Jim though this week, because
Okay.
I'm realizing that even though Rugrats is probably still too high on the list, the movies that are really gonna suffer from that are the Shallow Hals of the world, where like that's probably a 3 or a 4, and Rugrats should be way below that. So part of Jim's new mantra is, if the only people suffering are the Shallow Hals of the world, I don't give a shit, dude. Who cares about Shallow Hal? Who cares where that is on the list? Like, that's an
absolutely
easy one
fair.
to explain away. Like the
That is true.
6s of the world are still living good, you know? The 7s of the world are still living good. And as long as those movies are good, I'm happy.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I feel I can concur with that.
So
So, all
what
right,
I'm
Jim,
gonna
having
say,
said that, yeah, leading into our next moment here, then, Jim, let's hear the final star rating for Shallow Hal.
I'm gonna give Shallow Hal a 2, and you do your worst, sir.
All right, so, well, what do you think my worst is? If you're giving it a 2,
I think you're gonna match a 2. That's what I'm pegging you at.
Jim, you know me so well.
Yeah.
I am also going to give this movie a 2. It is wildly disappointing, but it had a few moments that made me chuckle, and it didn't make the movie outright unwatchable. So you get a 2 in my book for that bad boy. And I think that's fair. Rounding two twos together to give us a 4 puts it in the number 16th seed with the Rugrats movie, also at a number 4. So now, Jim, that's the big hot ticket item question now. Which do you
Yeah.
take, the Rugrats movie or Shallow Hal?
God damn. After everything I just said, I immediately regret this. I immediately
Really
regret
making you
this.
put your money where your
'Cause, like,
mouth is.
This is just torture. Like the Rugrats or Shallow Hal. Like you're really like gonna force me to pick Shallow Hal over something. Like
I am. I just need to hear it come out of your mouth.
I'm gonna take Shallow Hal over the Rugrats.
I also will
And
take Shallow Hal over the
I
Rugrats.
also think it's right that it's ahead of the Perfect Storm too. And then there was one other 3.5, right?
Yes. So, other than the Perfect Storm, Jurassic Park 3 from last week is also with a 3.5.
Oh yeah, so that's fair. I think you can reasonably say it's better than all those movies.
Oh no, wait, I missed that. I wasn't looking correctly. Jurassic Park 3 is also the other 3. There's actually 3 3.5s.
Ooh.
Jurassic Park 3, The Perfect Storm, and Jim, what do you think sits below The Perfect Storm? The worst rated 3.5 that we did.
Below the Perfect Storm. My God, what could it be? Hold on. Let me think
You
about
played
this for
a
minute.
soundboard of it tonight.
Oh, it's Planet of the Apes, of course. Yeah, of course.
Good old Planet of the Apes. It's not mystics, it's science. So yeah, so those are our low hanging fruits. There are those three movies. But yeah, I think four is fine for Shallow Hal. Those I
Yeah,
feel like anything under five right now, all those ones are all grouped exactly where they probably should be, with the
yeah, and
exceptions.
I'd like to reiterate, if something worse than Shallow Hal gets ahead of Shallow Hal, I will not lose one wink of sleep.
That's fair. That's fair. I can agree with that sentiment. But all right, we didn't talk about it earlier so that we could save it for here to figure out what we're going to be doing next week. And so Jim, I'm assuming you already have picked it out since we
Yeah,
talked about it before.
I
So
saw
cue
it
it up.
on the list.
What is our movie for next week?
Yeah, I saw it on the list, and like I said earlier, you are a basic bitch, so you would not have missed this opening weekend of this particular movie. And like to be fair, I didn't either. So,
I don't
um,
think anyone from our generation and our age group missed this movie.
yeah. So without further ado, it was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, buddy. We are finally turning our attention to probably one of the biggest franchises from our age, growing up in the 2000s, which is the Harry Potter franchise. So
Yeah,
this is going to be
and
a fun one to dive into.
I just watched this like 2 weeks ago, and I'm still so excited to watch it again.
Did you really?
Yeah, yeah, I seriously did. I didn't know that it was coming up, so I watched like the first three like a few weeks ago.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't think usually when I go to watch or when Heather makes us rewatch the Harry Potter movies, we tend to go towards the later ones. I try usually when if we're gonna watch the Harry Potter
That's
movies,
a stupid decision, but let's
I
save it for next
always
week.
I always say to skip the first two.
that's that's a bogus decision, but let's save it for next week.
Yeah. So well, I'm just saying it's been a minute since I've watched the first one, so this will be
Yeah.
a
Well,
nice little return here.
I think yeah, we'll talk next week. We'll talk
We will.
next week.
We'll,
I
we'll,
think
we'll-
you will be reminded why those later movies are kind of trash compared to the first three.
All right. Well, I'm ready to be pleasantly surprised and to be re-energized in what should be my love for the first one. So we'll get there. But all right, that will be next week's episode, everybody. So make sure you tune back in next week when we dive into the Harry Potter franchise. Jim, do you have anything to leave the lovely people with this week?
Nah, I'm good for this week, I think.
He's like, nah. He's like, listen, I just want to end this so I can go watch Shallow Hal again.
No, so I can go watch Harry Potter. I am gonna have so many audio clips, you have no idea.
Oh my God. But he'll definitely have something to sign off with next week. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
But all right, he'll leave the signing off to me this week. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, until next time, we'll see you at the movies.